past that I fail so depressed when I can't seem to get out. But something deep inside won't let me quit. I swear that I'm inspired by all this shit. Tell me that I can't and I won't. That's what guides me the most. Fuck your lies, I'll do what I want.
The gas in the back of the set, never leave. She's so bad that the kid made the brag. The gas in the back of the set, never leave. She's so bad that the kid made the brag. The gas in the back of the set, never leave. She's so bad that the kid made the brag. The gas in the back of the set, never leave. She's so bad that the kid made the brag.
Alright, so now we're down to scanning the cabinet for any minor imperfections, and the scanner shows up every little thing, so any air bubbles, dents, dings, whatever that's left over we'll be filling in here, and then we'll be going into the final sanding and the final primer, and then we can start the paint process. So we're getting close to paint. And the final body work is sanded. We're going to do a wash down here for the final primer. And then once the final primer is on, I'll be able to see a little better if there's any small imperfections that I might have missed. I think I got them pretty good, so I'll be surprised if there's much at all. So we'll get this primered. Check for blemishes one last time. And then once we're satisfied with everything being repaired, then we move on to priming it, scuffing it, final scuff, do another wash down, then the fun part starts. We get to start the paint process. And on the chopper, the paint work is done. I'm just working on the seal coat right now. The artwork came out really nice. Just got to get this seal coat done, and then we can move on to bigger and better things. But it looks really good. And we're working on the coin door now. We got it stripped down, sanded, ready for primer. And after primer, we'll go to paint. And we're shaking the primer, getting ready to spray the coin door. And then we'll move on to paint. And this is the paint on the inside. So we gotta let that set up, and then we'll move into the outside. And we have the coin door, everything assembled and ready to install. Here's the front side. Turned out really nice. And here's the back side of the coin door finished. And ready to install. So the next step will be put this in the cabinet, and we'll move on to the control panel. And we're ready to install the coin door. So it goes behind this right front leg, so we got to take that off first. And it's just four nuts that go on the studs on the coin door. Then that's all there is to installing it, other than plugging in the wire harness. And here we have a coin door installed. And ready to move on to the control panel now. And we're starting the control handle assembly. It's a little rough, but you know, they all are. One problem that we do have is the control handles have a bushing right here, and it's brazed onto the housing. And on this side, somebody got a little rough with it and it's broken off. So the first thing we have to do is prep this and get that braze back on there, and then we can start prepping for paint. So we'll start working on that next. And we have it, the control panel stripped down, ready for primer. But first, the left control bushing got broken off, and that's all prepped to be brazed on. So that's what we're going to do next. We're going to braze that on, and then we'll be ready for primer. Once the primer dries and gets scuffed, then we'll start the paint process. Here we have the repaired bushing for the left control handle. A little more sanding, and we'll put this in primer and get it ready for paint. And the control panel is now in primer. We'll let that cure, scuff it, clean it, and then start the painting process. Control panel is now painted, so we'll let that cure, start working. While this is drying, I'll start working on the parts that go inside the assemblies, and we'll get them prepped and ready for install. And we are now finished with all the parts for the control panel. So it's just a matter of putting it back together now. Lots of little parts. Everything's refurbished. It's gonna look good put back together. And we have the control handle just about finished now. Just a couple little tweaks and we're good to go. Usually what happens, probably 50%, if not more, on these choppers, what I run into is this gear right here, this white one, gets stripped. And it's plastic, some kind of nylon, hard plastic, so the gears get stripped off. Here's the one that was in it. You can see the teeth right there on that side. There's some teeth that are missing, so that's pretty much toast. And they're hard to find, really hard to find. This is a new old stock one here. So everything's put back together, ready to install in the game. The only thing I have to do are these two potentiometers here. I have to calibrate those, and then so we'll do that next, and then we'll start putting the control panel in the cabinet, and that'll be the next phase. So we'll catch up with you then. All right, so we have the multimeter on the potentiometers, and it'll start at zero ohms, and then you have to adjust the pots to a certain ohm, and then you can tighten the gears down. So that's what we're gonna do right now. Okay, so there we have one, and we have to do the bottom one now. So we'll do that. Won't bore you with the details on that, and then we'll move on to putting the control panel in the cabinet. And now it's prepared. We're ready to install it into the cabinet. So the cabinet the holes are drilled. It's ready to receive the control panel. So that's what we're going to do right now. And that's that. And now that the housing's installed, we can do the helicopter control rod. Okay, just a little C-clamp on there and that's done. And the control panel installed. out really nice. Very happy with it. Now we can move on to the next stage. And we're now moving on to the helicopter boom. This is the rod that supports the helicopter that flies around. This one is broken. Right there in the middle, there's a hole where the wires feed through, so it's kind of fragile. And that's pretty common for that to get broken in shipping because people don't support the boom, and there's a counterweight here that screws on the end, and it's pretty heavy. So you got this counterweight bouncing as it goes down the road in the moving truck, and it just fatigues that spot right there and breaks it. So that's what we're going to work on right now, is getting that repaired. And we've located the missing slam switch right here. It was missing on this coin door. I had to track one down from another coin door, and we got the slam switch decal back on. So the only thing left with the coin door now is I have to go into schematics and trace the wiring and figure out what wires go to the slam switch. But it's just another detail. It's not a big deal as far as not being on there. The game would play without it, but you know, you try to make them as authentic as you can. So that's what we did with this one. And we're now working on the play field. So it's been cleaned, whole top side's cleaned. There is a lot of helicopter skid dirt right there. There's tracks the whole way around, so that'll all have to be cleaned off. Also, this is glue here, so there's shrubbery missing in different spots that would look like that right there. So that'll all have to be put back on with new. And the bottom side, I've already gone over most of the mechanicals, and all light sockets have been replaced with new. So you can keep working on it. Probably work on cleaning this dirt off next, and then the shrubbery, and then finish the bottom side. Then it's helicopter time. Continuing on the play field, we got some shrubbery planted, so to speak. So the next step is do a little more cleaning on the plastics, do the final polish on the plastics, and then we can start working on putting the targets, refurbishing the targets and putting them back in. And we have the mechanicals for the play field all refurbished and ready to go back on. So next step will be installing the parts back on the play field, and then we have to move on to rebuilding the copter motor. Probably have to do some body work on it. And we have the mechanicals installed back underneath the play field. So we'll be moving to the top side now. Everything's cleaned, adjusted. moves really free. Copter's gonna fly really nice. And we have the final cleaning on the playfield. Landscaping is all done, like I mentioned before. All the mechanicals under the playfield have been refurbished and installed. So the copter, everything spins really freely. So the next thing is to start putting the helicopter boom together in the center here. Get the copter built, and then after that we'll be moving on to the targets. There's a motorized target in front of each one of these buildings. They all need to be redone. And we have them in a box here ready to start sorting those out and refurbishing those, getting them ready to install. And we now have the helicopter boom installed, and also the wiring up and through the boom out to where the helicopter will be. So next step is to start working on the helicopter chassis and the body. Next up, we're starting the targets. So we'll have to take these all apart, refurbish them, check the photoreceptors to make sure that they're good, or probably replace them, test the motors. This is target number 4, just randomly starting with whatever I pulled out of the box. So now we're testing the target photo cells, which is that little photo sensor right there. If that's no good, the target will not work. All right, so we have the targets on the test stand, and we're getting ready to test the motors. We'll test in forward and reverse and make sure that everything's working good. Okay, so here's the down, testing the down position on the motor. And the up position. Everything's testing good on that one. And we have the 4 targets refurbished and ready to go in the game. I won't put the target faces on them until I put them in the game and test them to make sure everything's working good, because they get riveted in, and that's once and done. And now we have the targets installed into the playfield. So all 4 are in, ready for testing once we get everything, all the electronics done. And let me see if I can get a shot here. I have left the alien bodies off. That way I can test the optos when all the electronics are done and we coin it up. I can test the optos and the targets, make sure they're working, and then I can put these on. But they get riveted on, so I don't want to, if I do have any issues with any of the optos, I don't want to have to drill these back off for a second time, because once they're riveted on, they're kind of a pain to get off. So we're getting close. Next step would be to put the playfield inside the cabinet. And we have the playfield inside the cabinet now. And here's the front view with the playfield installed. next we're going to be moving on to the chassis, the helicopter chassis. So that'll be the next thing. Okay, back on the copter chassis, and here's an example out of another game that the one I'm working on was missing this L bracket, that black piece right there, and the light socket and bulb. And that is a miniature bulb in there. So I had one heck of a time finding that socket and bracket. But believe it or not, I found it. So we have the bracket, the new bulb, and the new light socket, which will mount right here. And there's a lens that still goes in this section right here, which is this tube right there. And I have all that. So now that I got these parts in, we're ready to start assembling the chopper. Still got to rebuild the motor, but and build a new body and a bunch of other stuff. But I'll keep you up to date as I go. All right, so we have the copter chassis on the bench and the light socket. Everything's installed. We're just going to test the socket and the light to make sure everything's good. And everything looks to be good. So next is to set up we're going to put a jig up here to test the focus on the light beam, and that'll be next. Okay, and we have the copter chassis on the bench with the test light jig set up. So basically the way you want to set this up is I have a half-inch graph on this jig. The light should be 3 inches away from it, and it should create a 1-inch circle with sharp edges. So once you have that, you are adjusted and ready to go. And now we have the chopper motor disassembled, and we're doing some refurbishment on that, getting that all rebuilt, and we'll get it back in the chopper chassis, copter chassis, and then we'll do some testing on the motor and make sure everything's working. And the motor is back together, ready to go back into the copter chassis. And the copter motor is back in the chassis, ready for bench test, and then we move on to the body. Okay, so we have the power hooked up to the motor, and it's dead. It's not working. So I have to take it back apart, take another look at it, and I don't know why it's not running, but may have to replace it with a new old stock motor. Okay, we're back on the copter motor. I took it back apart and figured out what the problem was. The brushes weren't making contact. And also, I forgot to mention here, this copter prop here has been broken in half, and the tip broke off, and so it's been repaired, and that thing's gonna be all out of balance, so that's gonna get discarded. And we have a new old stock, brand new one's never been installed before. That's gonna go on the motor. So we're ready to hook up the wiring and test this motor. Okay, so we have the copter motor rebuilt and put back in the chassis, brand new NOS propeller, and we're going to do the first motor test here. And now we're moving on to I'm making molds to form brand new copter bodies. So I started this. I'll be refining these a little more, and then we'll do the vacuum form on these brand new bodies. And we're back on the chopper molds to make chopper bodies. So we're just doing some fine tuning on these, get them smoothed out, and then we'll start vacuum forming the bodies. And I'm happy to report that the copter body molds are finished. And I am tickled to be done with this project. So ready to move on to do the vacuum forms, and hopefully they turn out the way they should. So we'll catch up with you when we get to that stage with the vacuum form. And here we have half a body formed, ready to come out of the mold. So I got 2 sets of copter bodies made. I know it's hard to see because it's clear, but now we'll cut those out and start working on the paint work. I think they're going to work out fine. All right, so we're back on the helicopter bodies and starting to take shape. So we got one of them going, just about done with this one, and then we're gonna put the other one on the table and get that one going. I'll update you again in the next phase when we start the painting. Okay, and we have 1/2 body mounted on the chopper. It's looking pretty good. Now moving on to the other half. Okay, so we got both halves of the copter body on the chopper. And just got a little bit more tweaking to do, and we're going to move on to paint. All right, so we started the paint process on the copter bodies. So I got the white on. I'm going to let that dry and move on to the red. And here we have the paint work done on the copter bodies. So I have to work on the artwork now, and then we'll be applying the decals after the artwork's finished. And they'll be ready to install. And here we have the artwork installed on the copter bodies. And a little more progress on the copter bodies. We got the safety chain installed and the hollow rivet through the body to give it a little more strength. That's the way it was done at the factory. So they're ready to install on the chassis now. And we have the copter installed into the game. Have to do a little bit of wiring up here and put the cover on and the counterweight on the end of the boom there. Also have the scenery in the back installed just to test fit, because I had to install the light behind it. And then we also put a black light in the front up here because these cars are fluorescent, and with that light it makes them pop a little more. So I'll lower some lighting here and then I'll take a video and show you the difference. All right, this video is to demonstrate the black light. If you look at the cars, you got one there, there, and there. And some of the paint on the play field, with just regular lighting, you know, you can see what they look like. Now watch when I turn the black light on. You see a big difference. Okay, here we go, off. Black light on. It's just a subtle difference, but it makes the cars really stand out. If you had this in your game room, like I don't have that scenery, the light behind the scenery on right now, but if you had that on, lights off in your game room, and then this black light, it's going to make a really nice effect. All right, so we have the bottom power supply panel on the bench, and we're going to start refurbishing this. So I'll do some short videos as I make progress. All right, so we got the power supply panel taken apart. The wood's refreshed and painted, and we're working on the harness now. Harness out here, we're getting ready to wash it down, so we'll get that good and clean and then start refurbishing the parts on it once it dries. All right, so we just gave the harness a good scrubbing so everything's nice and clean. Let that dry, then we'll start taking everything apart and refurbishing all the mechs. And we're still on the power supply board. I have most of it done. New power cord, new fuse block, all the contacts have been gone through. New capacitors on the boards, transistors all tested. But next problem is the program step-up unit. The circuit board got broken, so can't find one. I'm gonna have to repair that one. So I'll be back with you once I get that repaired. All right, back on the step-up unit. Have it repaired. Just mixed up a little fiberglass resin and some fiberglass cloth. And then we'll flip that over and fix the traces. And the program stepper is repaired. Board's fixed, traces fixed. So she's ready to go back on the main board. Just have a couple capacitors I'm waiting. I had to order, so I'm waiting. Where the blue tape is are the capacitors that have not been replaced yet. All the other ones are replaced, so let's put it back on the board. And we are all back together. Just waiting for some electronics to come in to finish those circuit boards. But other than that, she's done, ready to go in the game. And we had a few electronic parts show up for the chopper, so I can finish the power board now. So let's get to it. Okay, the power supply board is finished and it's ready to go back in the game. Okay, and we have the power board installed into the cabinet temporarily. I'll have to pull it back out because I'm going to work on the 8-track player next, and that goes down below it, so can't fasten that in or connect it yet, but it'll come soon enough. Okay, next we're going to be starting the 8-track player. So that'll go on the bench next. And we have the 8-track player disassembled and ready to start refurbishing it. So probably catch back up with you when I get it put back together. I don't think there'll be anything in between to show you. All right, working on the 8-track player. The preamp board is rebuilt. The box, the chassis, everything's rebuilt. So we're ready to start putting that back together. So I'll follow up here in a minute when I get it all put back together. And we have the 8-track all refurbished, and it's ready to go back together. And we have the finished 8-track player for the chopper. So she is ready to go into the game. All right, so we're going to button up the boom on the copter. We're going to get the wires all enclosed there and get the body or the casing back on, the counterweight on the boom, which are all these parts right here. So work on that, and then I'll come back and show you the final result. All right, so we have the boom weight installed and adjusted, and the towers put together with the wiring. All right, so now it's time to move on to the electronic boards in the back. That's when the real fun starts. That's probably half the work on this game is the board work. So here we go. Okay, in the last video I had the wiring boom cap on backwards. The notch here goes in the back towards the counterweight, straight in the front. Okay, so we're working on the target motor speed board and the amplifier board. They're almost done. I gotta wait for one more electronic piece to finish them off, and then we can install them in the game. But they're pretty much done. Okay, we have the back door boards rebuilt and installed on the door. So it's time to move on to the logic board, which mounts right here to the play field, right behind the scenery. So we'll be back with it. I'll catch up with you on the next video when I start working on that. Okay, so next we have the logic board. Gonna start rebuilding this. These things are always a big problem. This is probably the hardest part of the whole game, is getting this working correctly. You can see by the sticker on it, somebody tried to fix it before. Resets to 20 points, so I guess they never got it going either, so let me give it a try and see what we can do. Okay, so we're connecting all the wires, putting the harness together, and we have a logic board. I haven't touched it, I haven't done any work to it. What we're gonna do is just plug it in, and I wanna try to turn it on and see what's going on with the logic board so I can have some kind of game plan as to what needs fixed on it. So let's finish plugging everything in, and we'll power it on for the first time and see what we have. Be right back with you. Okay, so we turned it on. I have not coined it up yet, but I'm happy to see. I really didn't think the displays would be good at all. They're normally not. They look good. They're pretty nice. I don't have to replace those. At least the segments I can see right now will play a game and see if all the segments work. So on the logic board, I noticed there was a sticker on it. I don't know if you can read that. It says game resets to 20 points. And when we go around front here, the display is at 21. So I guess they never fixed that, in whoever worked on this before. So that'll be one thing right off the bat we have to fix. There was another sticker in the game that said target number 2 intermittent. So I assume we're gonna have a problem with that target also. All right, so let's coin it up and see what we got. Okay, just to test some of the game here, what I did, I replaced that logic board with a good working one. So let's coin it up and see what we got. Okay, it gave us a credit. You can see the second light bulb lit in the middle there. So let's push the start button and see what we got. Okay, we got some life. The copter's working. The sound is working. Let's see if the light in the chopper's working. It's not. Okay, so for some reason the light in the chopper is not working. Alright, let's see what we get here. And the targets aren't working. But I may have the switches on the control panel switched to the wrong position, so let's take a better look at it here. Okay, so I turned the service switches on and off, so it should be working. So let's see if the targets are, if that did anything for the targets. Let's start a game now. Okay, we got a target working. Let's see if we can kill it. Okay. The light bulb isn't working. This one came up, that light bulb isn't working. And that sensor isn't working.
This laser beam works.
Alright. Okay, so we're onto this one. That light bulb's working. Okay, the sensor's working. Okay, so these two front ones. Alright, so that photo sensor is bad, and this one's bad. Okay, so we had background sound, but there was no helicopter sound. So let's coin it up and see if I fix that. Okay, so we got the copter sound to work now. As you can hear in the background though, now we have a stuck target back here, the number 1. I have them all marked. 2, 3, 4. So we got a problem with that target being locked on. Alright, so we got the helicopter light working. That's one thing fixed. Okay, so we have target number 3 out of the game. It's not registering a hit. Something going on with the photo receiver. So we're going to work on this and see if we can get it fixed. Okay, so we have target number 3 fixed. Moving on to target number 4, this one right here. Alright, had to do some maneuvering in the shop here. I got the chopper up front because working back pretty much at capacity here. So I had it in this little hole here. You can see I'm pretty full with games. So I had to move it out front to continue on with it, because in order to do what I need to do to get these targets out, the back doors have to swing 180, which means you need a spot twice as wide as this game, and then the play field slides straight back, which means you need a spot twice as deep as this game. So it takes up a pretty big hole to slide that play field in and out to get to the targets and be able to work on anything. I was trying to do it reaching through underneath, and it's just too much of a pain. So that's where we're at now. I'll catch up on the next repair on moving forward. Okay, we are working on target number 4, which is this one up here, left front. Have it on the bench. It's not registering hits, so we're going to do some work on that. And the photo detector board, and see if we can figure out what's going on with it. Okay, so we got target 4 back in the game. We're gonna do it, see if we got it fixed. There we go. Yeehaw. Okay, all the targets are working now. I gotta try to figure out why the target lights are not working. Two of them were working before, now none of them are working. So, gotta track that down. I'll be back with you. Okay, making a little more progress. Got all the targets finished. It's target number 1, and the monster face is on. Target 2 finished. Monster face is on. Target 3 finished, monster face on. And target 4 finish, monster face on. Okay, moving on to the next thing. All right, so change of pace here. I'm gonna do some easy work here. Working on the logic board. I get the back glass logic board frame painted. And I'm gonna start working on the back glass for the logic board. It's really nice condition, but there's just a couple pinholes in the art that I want to touch up. Then we're going to move on to the logic board. I'll probably start with replacing the light sockets up in here, and then maybe do some troubleshooting on its resetting at 20 points, so see if I can get it to reset to 0. So I'll do some work and I'll catch back up with you. All right, we're doing a small amount of touch-ups on the score glass. There was just some very, very small pinholes in it, and when it lights up, it shines through, so we're touching those up. Still got to put the back masking on it. I got to let that color dry, and then we'll do the back masking, and then that'll be done. Then we're going to move on to some work on the board. All right, touch-ups on the score glass are done. Looks really good, can't even tell. So now we're going to move on. We're going to replace the light sockets on this logic board, and then after that, troubleshoot the reset, the points reset. Resetting to 20, we'll see if we can get it to go to 0. Getting started on the light sockets, so let's get them installed and be right back with you. Okay, and the new light sockets are installed. So now moving on to the points reset. All right, so I've been reading the schematic, and I think I tracked down where the failure is for the points reset. So let's replace that part and see if it fixes it. Okay, been working on the logic board and finally figured out what's going on with it. I got it fixed that it resets to 0. So that's awesome. That's a big fix right there. Okay, now working on the topper for the chopper, and finally figured out the wiring. So we got it working now, which is good news. We weren't sure if this light was working. It was supposed to be refurbished, but we weren't sure. We never tried it. All right, so we got a working light, and I'm waiting for parts right now for them to come in, because we're going to hook this up to the game and have it trigger at certain times. So once I get those parts and I get it hooked in the game, I'll be back and give you an update. Okay, I've been working on this custom topper, and
Some of the components I bought online are just frickin' junk, so I had to make my own. Halfway there, I got the power supply adjusted for that light, and you can see this is AC, so that's DC. I got it converted that we can run it right off the 110 wall outlet. So you can see it's working nice. So the next thing I got to figure out is a switching mechanism to where it'll switch on and off on different modes in the game. We're going to try to get it figured that the initial startup, it will come on for a few seconds, and then each target hit come on for a few seconds. Okay, so I finished designing the topper beacon. What we were trying to do was get it wired up to the targets in the game and also the start button. So the goal was when you push the start button, the beacon would come on for 5 seconds and then shut off, so it's not too obnoxious. And then also, every time you hit a target, it'll come on for 5 seconds and shut off. And so this is going to represent the start button and the targets. When it's pressed, that should come on for 5 seconds and then shut off. Here we go. Ready? Okay, we're getting ready to lay out the topper to be able to drill the holes, to be able to mount it. So I got everything marked off, and we're going to run wire up in there and get ready to build the base and get this thing mounted. Got the wire down here already fished through, so catch back up when I get something more farther along here. Okay, so we got the hole drilled, and we're going to run the electric next. All right, still working on the topper beacon, and right now I'm just trying to get the wiring harness run and cleaned up. So I got it run around the border with fasteners and wire looms. Comes up this corner. And then, oh, the feed comes out the top, of course, for the topper. So just got to make a junction box up here and for the topper to sit on, and then we'll put connectors in there so they can quick disconnect and take it on and off if you need to move the game. Okay, here's the first coin up since I have the topper wired in to the start button. So I'm getting ready to start a game. I have a credit on the game. I'm gonna hit the start button, and we should get a 5-second stroke. So let's try it. 3, 2, 1, go. Perfect. Unbelievable. Okay, I'm really excited about that. Okay, so now I just have to finish up by tying in the harness to the targets. So that'll probably be the hardest part. So I think I have it figured out, but let me do some work on it, and I'll come back and we'll see if it works. Okay, now we're going to test the game with the targets hooked up. We have a credit on. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, let's hit a target. Okay, we're good. All right, here's a mock-up of the topper. I think it looks pretty good. I have the maybe resize some of the lettering towards the bottom there, and the chopper up top have the lettering scallop above the actual topper itself. And then I was thinking about doing like the lightning bolts or the air burst around the beacon, but I don't know. I think maybe if we leave it that color, the beacon will stand out more when it's on
Let me know what you think. Okay, after looking at this for a little while, I think what we ought to do is just where the red beacon is, not the chrome down here, just the red, do a continuous jagged burst around the red beacon and stop right where the chrome is. I think it's what we should do. Okay, been working on the chopper target lights. We had target number 2, 3, and 4 that did not work. Been studying the schematics pretty much for 3 days straight, driving me crazy. And on the schematics, it's about location C7. We have target light 2 right there, 3 and 4. And it all traces back to the program unit. And the program unit was fine. I had to go through the whole harness, pretty much tear the playfield out and go through everything until I finally figured it out. But I'm happy to be moving on, so I'll show you, we'll move on. I'll show you some video of the target lights working now. So these are the targets that I'm having trouble with, the lights. This is target number 2. And this light right here is not coming on. Target 3, same way. This light right here is not coming on. And target number 4, that light's not coming on. So, did some work. We'll start up a game and I'll show you where we're at now. And we're going to show the fixed target lights now. All right, so that's the fixed lights. They're working good. And to add to the fun, as I'm working on these target lights, the target number 1, which was working, decides it's going to stick in the up position just to add to the fun. And it will not move up or down. So now we have that to work on. This game is a never-ending barrel of fun, let me tell you. Okay, this target number 1 that wouldn't go down, I tried working with it and it was just intermittent. So I think what I'm going to try to do, I think what may be the problem, I think that motor is just weak. So I'm going to put a new motor in there and see what happens. Be right back. And we have the old motor out and we're going to put this new motor in. So we'll get that installed and give it a shot. Okay, been working on this target for a couple hours now and couldn't figure out what in the heck was going on. Thought it was the motor. Replaced the motor, that didn't help. Then, cleaned the connectors, thinking it was a connector issue, that didn't help. Thinking it was a harness issue, replaced the whole wire harness on this target, that didn't help. Replaced the switches, thinking maybe there was a short internally, that didn't help. So it comes down to there's something internally in the gearing that is binding it up. So it's just, I think it's working, but because the gears are bound up, it's not letting it work. So with me working on the other parts of the game and everything, I don't know if maybe a little solder
solder drop got down in the gears there or something. I don't know. I'm gonna have to take it all apart and work on it some more, and then I'll let you know what I find out. But hopefully tomorrow we'll be past this and we can move on to some easier stuff. Okay, so I took target 1 all apart, and it's not locked up, it's free. But I reset the shaft here. I reset that down in the down position and put it back in the game, and it did go up, but once it's in the up position, you shine the light on it, target sensor works, but it won't go down. So I got to figure out why it's not going down. I'll work on that. I'll be right back. Okay, I looked all over this target. I can't find anything, even compared it to a second one. I don't see a darn thing. The only thing I can see seems a point where that gear seems like it may not be true to round, like it kind of gets tight at one spot. I don't know if that's it or not, but I do have a spare, luckily, one spare from a spare target. And I'm going to swap that and see what happens. So we put the gear in, the target, tested it in the game, and that fixed it. So just an oddball thing like that. I don't know what would have caused it, but there you go. Okay, got the target working, but now we have target 4 and target 1 on at the same time. Boy, this is a gift that just keeps on giving here. Unbelievable. Okay, so we worked on the target and we got it fixed. So target 1 and 4 are no longer tied together. There's target 4, target 1 is not up. And target 1 with target 4 not up. On to the next thing. So we have the marquee art done, and we're getting ready to install it. We're going to be making brackets to mount it to the game, which I think I showed you before. It will go up here and it'll straddle that Mars beacon. So let me do a little more work and be right back. And the first thing we got to do is cut the flat stock. So let's get that cut to length. So that's cut. Let's get ready to bend it. All right, flat stock is cut. Let's get the burrs off and smooth the edges.
that'll do it. Okay, we got the brackets bent in the right angle, so we're going to drill the holes now. Alright, so we got the holes drilled. Let's deburr them. Okay, that's done. Just got to drill the mounting holes now in the where it's going to connect to the cab. Be right back. And we have the brackets installed. They should be good and sturdy. Holes drilled to mount it to the cab. Got the correct rivets in it. All right, so let's get this on top of the game. And we have the marquee mounted on the game now. Came out really nice. This is what the customer wanted. That's what the customer gets. Let me flip around and show you the backside. And here we have the backside. Looks really good. Just got to clean the beacon up, get my fingerprints off it, and that'll be a done deal. And here's the side shot. Nice and straight. And now we're calibrating the potentiometer gears. So we get those calibrated, and then we'll be able to use the hand controls. So we'll get that done. I'll be right back. And we just finished calibrating the potentiometers in the front here. So that's all good to go. We can put the cover on it and check that one off the list. And the control box is now finished, and we're ready to move on to the next thing. And now we're going to work on the prop angle. So the controllers will make the helicopter go forward and back. We have to get that adjusted. It's not it's flying backwards really good, but I can't get it to go forward very fast. So we're going to work on that. Be right back. And here you can see it will go backwards really well, but not forwards. I'll try forward. Just need a little more. Just need a little more. All right, so we'll work on that and come back. Okay, we did some adjustments on the propeller. Let's see if we got the angle right now.
Much better. All right, I think we got the copter volume a little bit too loud, so I'll turn that down just a tad. And now we're working on finishing the copter body. I have it all done. Got the tail rotor on there. I don't know if you can see it right there. So that's one more piece of the puzzle done. Let's move on to the next thing. We have the glass prepped and ready to go in. And you know you're getting close on finishing a game when the glass goes in. So I'm looking forward to this. Let's get it installed and I'll be right back. And we're prepping the game to get ready for the glass installation. There's the trim. You know when the glass goes in, you're getting serious. So we're rounding the finish line on this one. I'll update you real soon here when we get the glass installed. This is a great time of year to be in your shop working on a game. It's the end of, towards pushing the end of January here. We got snow. It's cold. It's in the 20s. So I don't mind being in the shop in this kind of weather. Right, Chloe? You like being in the shop too? Yep. Let's get back to work. All right, so we got one piece in. And getting ready. I gotta put the top trim in up there in the corner trim, and then the corner trim doesn't go in until we put the side trim in. Keep putting pieces in, I'll be right back. And we have the glass installed. And about the time that you think you have the game almost done, you get a target that's intermittent on a hit. So went through the photo detector board, and I thought maybe it was a potentiometer. Pulled that out, that was good. So I think I got it narrowed down to what it is. So let me work on it and we'll try it again. We're back working on another target. This one decided that the photo sensor didn't want to receive a hit after working fine for a while. So tore it back apart and did some rewiring and some other work, and we're going to put it back in the game and see if we got it now. All right, making some good progress here. Got the target number 4 working, and target number 2 back there. I want to work on that sensitivity a little bit more. It's triggering, but not as good as the rest. So work on that and it'll pretty much be done. All right, we have target number 2 back on the bench, working on that photo sensor. So I did some work to it. Let's put it back in the game and see what we have. All right, we're gonna test that target after the repairs. And we're good. Working a lot better now. That's what you want right there. Now we're working on making a coin box. I didn't have one the right size, so I'm just going to fabricate one. So I got most of the parts cut out. Let me weld this together, and then we'll show you the final product. Okay, we're going to start welding the coin box together.
turn that up a little bit. Get a good penetration. All right, there's most of it. I'm gonna make the top now. All right, let's get the top cut. Notch that out and get it in the brake, get it bent. Okay, there's the top. That's exactly how the chopper coin box is supposed to look. So let's weld that up and let's get ready to get it refinished. Okay, let's clean it up and get it smoothed out, get it ready for paint.
And we're just doing a test fit here. Make sure everything fits before we go to paint. All right, moving on to paint. We have the coin box prepped for paint. So let's get some paint on that and we'll be right back. And we have the finished coin box. So we'll let this dry and install that later on. This is the finished coin box installed. So check that one off the list. Let's move on to the next thing. All right, just a quick little test here. I have the sound turned off because when you're working on this thing, it just gets to be too much. So sound off, testing targets. Everything's hitting beautifully. Copter's flying beautifully. All right, that's a successful test. Now we have the score display fixed. It registers 1 hit per target. I wasn't happy with the glass. It had a couple small scratches in it, so I ordered new. And we got the play field out. We're getting ready to install the new glass, so it's just a lot easier with the play field out. So let's get that installed and I'll show you when we get that finished. The glass is installed and I'll tell you that's quite a job on this game. Yanking that play field out, making sure you don't bang any of those targets because they're touchy to begin with to get them going. But the glass is in, looks beautiful. When that scenery goes in the back there, the thing's really gonna look killer. It's playing really nice. So let's put it the rest of the way together and take some video of the gameplay. Here we have the finished game, 100% finished. We'll do a final gameplay video here in a second. This is a must-have in your collection, this game. It's one of the hardest to get going correctly. You see a few of them out there, rarely see any working correctly anyway. Beautiful game,
everything about it's a 10. The soundtrack's a 10. The artwork's a 10. The gameplay's a 10. There's very few electromechanical arcades that are a 10 with aesthetics and gameplay, and this is one of them. Just do a quick and dirty walk around. Don't want to bore you with too much of the cab, but beautiful piece. And so now we'll set up the tripod, and I'll try to show you some gameplay and some of the features we added to it. The owner wanted some modifications done to it, such as the topper on the top there. And I'll show you how that all incorporates with the game here in a second. So let me set up the tripod. I'll be right back with some gameplay. Okay, so let's coin it up and do some gameplay. Okay, so that's the targets. Now let me show you the modifications that we did on the topper. Okay, so on the topper, we have it set up that when you coin it up, the flasher will come on for a few seconds and then shut off because it'd be too obnoxious to be on all the time. And then every target, when you get a hit, it comes on for a few seconds. So let's demonstrate that now. All right, now a hit. Okay, so that's the topper. Okay, and we got the chopper on the pallet and getting ready to make the crate and send it to its new home. And she's getting ready to go to her new home.
There she goes. I'm glad that restore is done. Let's move on to the next one.